I like to hike alone. People always tell me it's reckless, but it's the one place I feel like I can breathe. There's a trail about an hour from where I live, steep, winding, and remote enough that I can go for miles without seeing another soul. I've done it dozens of times. It's where I go when I need to clear my head. That morning, I had no reason to expect anything different. The air was crisp when I parked my car, a soft layer of fog lingering at the tree line. It was late September, the leaves halfway through their change, fiery reds and burnt oranges carpeting the forest floor. I slipped my backpack on, locked the car, and started up the trail with that peaceful quiet that only exists far from the road. It didn't take long to settle into a rhythm. My boots crunching on damp soil, the distant chatter of birds, the rustle of squirrels darting through underbrush. Every now and then, I stopped just to inhale the smell of pine and moss, grounding myself. It was perfect. But a couple miles in, I started to feel off. Like something was just a little out of place. It wasn't anything I could point to. The forest looked the same, sounded the same. Still, the hairs on the back of my neck prickled. I shook it off and kept walking. Maybe 20 minutes later, as the trail curved around a ridge, I thought I heard a stick snap behind me, a sharp crack that didn't fit with the usual forest noise. I stopped, listened. The only sound was wind threading through branches. After a moment, I forced a laugh under my breath and kept going. Probably just a deer. This trail was full of them. Except, a few minutes after that, I heard it again. This time closer. A deliberate crunch, not the quick, scattered noise of an animal scurrying. My chest tightened. I turned my head slowly and scanned the trees, holding my breath. Nothing. Just shadows and sunlight slanting through the canopy. I sped up without meaning to, legs pumping harder, my breathing quickening. I told myself it was fine, just my imagination playing tricks because I'd been alone too long. But every few steps, I thought I caught the faint sound of footsteps syncing up with mine, falling silent whenever I stopped. Eventually, I forced myself to stop outright and crouched to retie my bootlace, hoping to catch whoever it was off guard. I stayed like that for a good 30 seconds, pretending to fuss with the knot, my ears straining. Nothing. No movement. No sound. I felt stupid. Paranoid. I laughed it off again, more forcefully this time, and pulled out a granola bar from my pack. My hands were trembling more than I liked to admit, so I told myself it was just blood sugar. I needed a break. There was a smooth, flat boulder off the side of the trail, sun-warmed and dry, so I climbed up and sat with my legs crossed, chewing in silence, trying to reset. That's when I felt it. A cold, hard pressure, right at the base of my skull. I froze. "Don't scream," a man's voice said softly, directly behind me, "and don't turn around." My mouth went dry. The metal pressed harder against my neck, and I knew, with an instant sick certainty, that it was a gun. "Stand up," he said. I couldn't make my body move. My muscles locked. Tears sprang into my eyes without warning. I wasn't even crying yet, just leaking, like my body had bypassed thought altogether. My heart was hammering so hard it hurt. I said, "Stand up." I swallowed, nodded. Somehow my legs unfolded, shaky and weak. He didn't touch me, but I felt the gun follow the movement of my skull as I rose. "Good," he murmured. "Now walk forward. Nice and slow." I stepped off the rock, my boots hitting dirt again. My whole body felt detached, like I was watching from outside myself. He was so close I could hear his breathing, steady, unhurried. I tried to picture him, even though I hadn't seen him. Just a faceless shadow with a voice like gravel and smoke. "Stay on the trail," he said. So I did. We walked like that for maybe 10 minutes. My mind raced through every possibility, none of them useful. Could I run? No. I'd never make it. Could I scream? The forest was too empty, no one would hear me. Could I fight? I had no weapon, and he had a gun. Every option ended with me face down in the dirt, bleeding. Eventually, the trees thinned, and through the branches, I saw the faint glint of metal. A car. My stomach turned over. We emerged into a small clearing where an old sedan was parked on the grass, half hidden behind scrub. My heart lurched into my throat. "Stop," he said. I stopped. "Turn around." Slowly. I obeyed. He stood a few feet away, the gun still aimed at me. He was wearing a dark hoodie and jeans, the hood pulled up, and a plain black mask over his face. Not a ski mask, just one of those smooth neoprene ones that covered everything below the eyes. His eyes were brown, flat, empty. He could have been anyone. "Drop your pack," he said. My hands fumbled with the straps. I let it fall to the ground. "Open the trunk." I stared. Please, please don't. Do it." Something in his tone made my knees buckle. I stumbled to the back of the car and opened the trunk. It yawned wide and dark, the kind of dark that swallows you whole. He came up behind me. "Get in." My body refused. I shook my head, trembling, my voice barely a whisper. "Please." The barrel of the gun brushed my ribs. "Get in." I climbed in. The carpet was rough under my palms. The smell of oil and old metal filled my nose. He slammed the trunk, and I was swallowed in blackness. I heard the click of the lock and then the muffled thunk of the driver's door shutting. The engine started. The car jolted forward. I couldn't breathe. I was crumpled on my side, my knees pressed to my chest, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. Panic surged like electricity through my limbs. I had to think. I had to do something. If I just lay here, I was going to die. I tried to orient myself. The car tilted on curves, the engine whining louder when we accelerated. I guessed he was driving fast, recklessly. Maybe there was a chance. Maybe if we hit a bump hard enough, the latch would spring. I felt around frantically, my fingers brushing over rough carpet and metal. My hands found the emergency release. A small glowing handle, thank God, but it wouldn't budge. My heart sank. It had been disabled. He'd thought of that. I bit my lip until I tasted blood. The car roared on. I shifted and kicked at the sides. The sound was dull, muffled. No one would hear it over the engine. My phone was in my jacket pocket, but when I pulled it out, my stomach dropped. No signal. Of course, no bars, no way to call for help. I opened the Maps app anyway, hoping the GPS might track my movement, but the dot stayed stubbornly frozen on the trailhead where I'd started. It was useless. Tears blurred my vision. I wiped them away furiously. Think. Then the car lurched harder, accelerating. The hum under my body climbed to a whine. He was speeding up, way up. My only chance was for someone, anyone, to notice. I started screaming. I kicked the trunk wall as hard as I could, again and again, the thud vibrating through my bones. I screamed until my throat burned, hoping maybe someone driving by would hear. I doubted it. The car seemed to be flying, barely slowing for the curves. My body slammed against the walls with every sharp turn. Then suddenly, sirens. A rising wail in the distance, faint at first but growing, piercing. My heart leapt. I screamed louder, shriller, pounding with both fists. The car swerved, braked hard, then slowed. The siren rose until it was right behind us, warbling. A single whoop from the loudspeaker, commanding. We stopped. I stopped breathing. I could hear his breathing through the seats. Fast now, panicked. A car door creaked open and boots crunched on gravel. A voice calm and firm, license and registration. Silence, then his voice, tight. Yeah, just a second. I pressed my mouth to the seam of the trunk and shrieked, "Help, please, I'm in the trunk, help!" Everything exploded at once. A sharp command, step away from the vehicle. Shouting, footsteps pounding, a gun being drawn. I could hear the click. The trunk latch popped, and sudden blinding daylight seared my eyes. Hands reached in and pulled me out, my limbs stiff and useless. I collapsed on the asphalt, sobbing. 2 uniformed officers hovered over me, one already on the radio. The other kept his gun trained on the man, my kidnapper, who was now face down on the hood of the car with his hands behind him. He wasn't saying a word, just standing rigid, still masked, as if the whole thing was inconvenient to him. They guided me to the side of the road, sat me down on the gravel shoulder. My legs wouldn't hold me. I was hyperventilating so hard I almost passed out, black creeping in at the edges of my vision. One of the officers, younger, with pale blonde hair and kind eyes, crouched in front of me and talked gently, grounding me. He gave me water. He asked if I was hurt. I could barely get words out through the sobbing and hiccuping, but I managed to shake my head. Just scared. Just so scared. They called an ambulance anyway. While we waited, they opened the man's wallet. The mask came off, and my world collapsed in on itself. It was Derek, my ex-husband. I stared at his face, my mind refusing to connect the pieces. Same square jaw, same short dark hair, same small scar at the corner of his mouth from where he'd fallen off his bike as a kid. Derek. My Derek. Or the man who used to be my Derek before everything went bad. I don't remember standing, but suddenly I was on my feet screaming at him, my voice cracking, hands trembling so violently I thought my bones would shake apart. Why? Why would you? What is wrong with you? He didn't answer. He didn't even look at me, just stared straight ahead at nothing, like he was somewhere far away. His face was completely blank, empty, except for the faintest curl at the edge of his lips. A smirk. Like this had all been some kind of game. The officers pulled me back gently. They didn't let me near him after that. The ambulance came. They wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, checked my vitals, asked me a stream of questions I could barely process. Shock, they said. I heard that word a lot, shock. They took me to the hospital. The police followed. I sat under bright white lights while they photographed my scrapes and bruises from being tossed around in the trunk. They swabbed my hands for gunshot residue, which made no sense to me until later when they explained they had to rule out everything. Protocol. And through it all, I kept hearing his voice in my head. Calm. Quiet. Don't scream. Don't turn around. Get in. It was like my brain was trying to scrub itself raw. A detective came to talk to me while a nurse was bandaging a cut on my shin. She was kind but clinical, asked me to tell her everything from the beginning, so I did, my voice shaking, stopping every few sentences to drink water or catch my breath. I told her how he'd followed me, how he'd pushed me at gunpoint, how he'd put me in the trunk. Every word felt unreal, like I was describing a nightmare I hadn't woken up from. She listened silently, nodding, then told me what they knew. He'd been stalking me for months, she said. Following my social media, tracking where I went. They'd found a notebook in his apartment with dates, locations, little maps. He'd been watching me hike, waiting, planning. He'd rented the car under a fake name, brought zip ties, duct tape, a tarp. There was a shovel in the trunk too, tucked under the lining. A shovel. That detail broke me. I started sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe, my whole body convulsing with it. The nurse had to hold me upright. The detective just stood there quietly and let me get it out. Derek was charged with kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and attempted murder. I went to the arraignment. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me needed to see him behind bars to believe it was real. He didn't look at me once. Not when they read the charges. Not when the judge denied bail. Not when they let him out in cuffs. He just stared straight ahead like he had on the side of the road, blank as stone. I used to love that face. I used to wake up next to it every morning and feel safe. Now all it does is haunt me. I still hike sometimes, but not alone. Not ever alone, and never that trail. That boulder where I sat eating my granola bar, I can't even think about it without feeling my throat close. People always tell me I was lucky, that if he hadn't been pulled over, if the cop hadn't heard me screaming, if I'd hesitated even a second too long, I wouldn't be here to tell the story. I know they mean well, but it doesn't feel like luck. It feels like I slipped through the thinnest crack in the universe and the door slammed shut behind me. And Derek is on the other side. The air was thin enough that every breath felt sharp in my chest, like cold steel scraping my lungs. October had turned the forest into a rotting patchwork of color, blazing orange and red that flaked off the trees and broke down into wet mush under our boots. It was supposed to be a simple overnight hike, just me and Sam. We'd been hiking together for years. Weekend trails, a couple of backcountry loops in the Smokies, and even a week-long trek in Colorado. This trip was nothing compared to those. A short ridge loop in the about 14 miles total, one night at a primitive campsite back by Sunday. Sam said it'd be perfect for seeing peak autumn colors. It was at first. The trail started as an old logging road winding up from the valley floor. Our boots kicked up pale dust that glimmered like chalk in the sun. The air smelled like pine and cold stone. No one else was around, not unusual this time of year. Just the two of us, alone, carrying everything we needed on our backs. We were maybe 6 miles in when we hit the fork. It wasn't on my map. A thin path broke off the main trail and angled up the ridge through the trees, barely wide enough for one person. The undergrowth was trampled down, though, like it had been used recently. There was no marker, no sign, nothing. Sam stopped, adjusting his pack straps. "Think that's a shortcut?" he said. I checked the topo map again. The main trail curled south around the ridge, while this path seemed to cut straight over the top. "Could be," I said. "Could also be nothing. Looks kind of sketchy." He grinned. "Adventure, dude." I should have said no. I think about that moment a lot now. The way the sun filtered through the branches above us, turning them gold. the sound of a woodpecker hammering somewhere far off. The way Sam looked so relaxed, like we were invincible out there. We turned onto the path. At first it was fine, soft pine needles underfoot, no brush, but after about a mile it got rougher. The trail narrowed until branches clawed at our arms and faces. Roots jutted like bones. The climb got steep enough that we were panting hard, sweating through our shirts despite the chill. And it just kept going. At one point I glanced back. Through the trees, far down the slope, I thought I saw something move, a flicker of black against the fiery leaves. I froze, squinting. "Did you see that?" I said. "See what?" Sam asked, coming up behind me. "I don't know. Something." We stood there a second, staring downhill. Nothing moved, just the faint whisper of wind through the dead leaves. "Probably a deer," Sam said. He brushed past me, kept walking. I followed, but I kept looking back. By late afternoon, the path leveled out on the ridge. I figured we'd rejoin the main loop somewhere soon, but the light was fading fast, bleeding red between the trees, and the air was dropping cold. I pulled out my phone to check GPS. No signal. The blue dot floated in a blank gray void. No trail lines, no map tiles. Just nothing. Sam pulled off his pack. "We should make camp," he said. "We're not even at a campsite," I said. "We'll dry camp. It's fine." We found a flat patch between two boulders and pitched the tent as the sky went purple. We boiled ramen on the camp stove, steam ghosting into the night. The forest was silent. No birds, no bugs, just the faint creak of trees. I kept thinking about that flicker of black I'd seen earlier. When I got up to pee, I took my headlamp and swept it in a slow arc through the trees. The beam caught two pale shapes for half a second, low to the ground, like knees, before they slid behind a trunk and vanished. My heart stopped. "Sam," I hissed. He stuck his head out of the tent. "What?" "I saw someone." He frowned, stepped out, scanned with his own light. Nothing. Just trees and shadows. "You're wigging yourself out," he said. "Come on, we're fine." I crawled into the tent, zipped it shut, and lay there with my heart pounding like a fist in my chest. Every few minutes I thought I heard faint crunches out there. Light, deliberate. Pacing. At some point, I must have drifted off. I woke up to silence so deep it felt like a weight pressing on my eardrums. My watch said 5:14 a.m. Sam was still snoring. I lay there, staring at the nylon above me, trying to convince myself I'd imagined everything. Then I heard it. A footstep. Slow, heavy, right outside the tent. Another. I couldn't breathe. I lay frozen as the steps moved past, then stopped. The silence was deafening. Then suddenly, a wet crunch, like something biting down on bone. I sat bolt upright. Sam jerked awake. "What the hell?" he whispered. We sat there, holding our breath, listening. Nothing. Sam unzipped the tent and stuck his head out. Cold gray dawn seeped in. The trees stood silent, skeletal. "Nothing here," he muttered. We packed up fast and started hiking again, wanting distance between us and that place. The path narrowed again, dropping along the north side of the ridge. The air smelled like mold. Our boots slipped on damp leaves. About an hour in, Sam stopped dead. "Do you hear that?" he said. I held still. Crunch, crunch, faint, behind us. We spun around, scanning the trees. About 50 yards back, half hidden between two oaks, someone stood. Tall, thin, dressed in black, perfectly still. "Hey!" Sam called. The figure tilted its head. Then it screamed. It wasn't human. It was like a cougar shrieking, layered over a man's voice, tearing its throat apart. My whole body seized. Before I could move, it dropped to all fours and bolted into the trees. So fast it blurred. Branches snapped, leaves exploded, and then silence. We stood there trembling, not breathing. "What the fuck was that?" Sam whispered. "Just keep walking," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. We started moving fast, nearly jogging. Every few minutes we stopped, listening. Once I swore I saw it pacing us far to the left, slipping between trees. Another time I caught the glint of pale skin through the brush. We had no idea where we were. The path kept twisting, splitting, rejoining. My compass needle spun lazy circles. The map was useless. By late afternoon, the light was failing again, and the trees were closing in like jaws. My legs were shaking with exhaustion. Sam kept muttering under his breath, it's fine, like if he stopped he'd collapse. Then we found the campsite. It sat in a shallow clearing, scattered with trash, torn sleeping bag, shredded tarp, rusted stove. The fire pit was choked with ash and animal bones, and the smell, sweet and sour and thick. There were drag marks in the mud, long furrows like something had been hauled away. Sam gagged. Jesus, we should. A branch cracked. We both spun. It stood at the edge of the clearing, closer now. Its clothes hung in rags, soaked black with something. Its skin was gray, stretched thin over bones. And its mouth was open too wide. It crouched, tendons creaking. Then it ran. Straight at us. I screamed. Sam grabbed my arm and yanked me, and we bolted. Branches tore at my face. The forest became a blur of color and shadow. I heard it crashing behind us, so fast it seemed to fly. Sam's pack caught on a branch. He ripped free, leaving the whole thing behind. We just ran. At some point, I realized I couldn't hear it anymore. We didn't stop, didn't speak, just ran until my vision went black at the edges. And then, a road, a thin strip of cracked asphalt cutting through the forest. We staggered onto it, gasping, legs shaking. Sam collapsed to his knees. Behind us, the trees stood still, empty. We waited. 10 minutes, 15. Nothing came out. Finally, we started walking. The road wound downhill, and just before full dark, headlights appeared. A pickup rounding the curve. The driver slammed the brakes when he saw us. "You kids lost?" He said through the window. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Sam just nodded, trembling. The man drove us to the ranger station 10 miles down the mountain. They sent a search team out that night. They found the shredded campsite. They found our packs. They didn't find anything else. No prints, no hair, no blood, nothing. Just silence. I don't remember the exact moment when the woods stopped feeling like woods. One minute we were just walking, arguing about granola bars and trail markers, and the next there was this silence that felt wrong. Not the peaceful kind you expect out there. It was suffocating, pressed against my eardrums. It was October, cold enough that the air had that dry metallic snap. My brother Noah had convinced me to do a weekend trip up in the remote, he said. Untouched, no tourists, no crowds, which was exactly what I wanted until we actually got there and realized untouched also meant no cell service and no one around for miles. We'd parked his Rusty at a dirt pull-off, slung our packs on, and started hiking in around noon. It was beautiful. I can admit that now, even if the memory makes my skin crawl. Maples and birches were halfway through shedding their leaves, and the ground was thick with yellow and red. The air smelled sharp and clean. We followed a marked trail for the first few hours, but Noah got restless. He always does. He's the kind of guy who sees a closed sign as a suggestion. Around 3 in the afternoon, he spotted what looked like a game trail veering off uphill through denser pines. "Shorter way to the ridge," he said, checking his compass like he knew what the hell he was doing. I didn't argue. I should have. The forest changed almost immediately. The canopy thickened, swallowing most of the light. The ground went from soft leaf litter to hard-packed dirt. No birds, no bugs, not even the wind, just the creak of our packs and the crunch of our boots. After maybe 20 minutes, I realized I was holding my breath. I let it out slowly, forcing myself to laugh. "It's like a horror movie out here," I joked. Noah grinned back at me. "That's the point." But then he stopped. I almost walked into him. He was staring off through the trees, his grin gone. "You hear that?" he whispered. I held still. At first, nothing. Then, something. Faint, like a footfall. No, like lots of footfalls, light and fast, circling just out of sight. My stomach flipped. "Probably deer," I said, but my voice was too high. Noah shook his head slowly. "Too many. Listen." We both stood frozen, trying to pin down the sound, but it seemed to move whenever we did. Scattering, then regrouping. Closer, then gone. Then I saw one. At first I thought it was a tree trunk. Tall, thin, motionless between the pines. But it was too smooth, too black. It didn't reflect any light at all, like it was cut out of the world. I blinked and it was gone. "Noah, I saw it," he said. His voice cracked. "We should have left then. Turned around, gone back down the hill, found the trail. Instead, he grabbed my arm and whispered, 'Just keep walking. Don't run. Not yet.' We kept moving, fast but trying not to look like prey. My whole body screamed at me to look back, but I didn't. I couldn't. The sound was all around now, a dry rustling, like 1,000 bare feet skimming over dirt. Something darted across the trail ahead of us, tall and black, moving impossibly fast, on all fours for a moment, then upright again. No features, no face. I couldn't breathe. "What the fuck are they?" I hissed. Noah just shook his head, eyes wide. We broke into a jog. The forest tilted around us. I remember branches whipping my arms, roots clawing at my boots, my breath tearing in and out too fast. The rustling grew louder, multiplying until it felt like the whole forest was alive and coming for us. Then they came out of the trees, dozens, no, hundreds of them, pouring out from every direction at once. Human-shaped but too long, too thin, their arms dragging low like pendulums. Completely black, like shadows peeled off the ground and given bones. No eyes, no mouths. They didn't scream. They didn't make any sound at all. Just that endless dry patter of feet on dirt as they ran. We ran too. I don't remember making the decision. 1 second I was frozen, and the next we were sprinting uphill, crashing through brush, slipping on loose rocks. I could feel them behind us, not touching, but close enough that the air moved with them, the sound of hundreds of feet pounding the earth in perfect unison. Noah yelled something. My name, maybe, but it was swallowed by the pounding. We hit a steep incline and clawed our way up on hands and knees. My lungs were on fire. My vision tunneled. The forest blurred into streaks of black and gold. I glanced back and instantly wished I hadn't. They were climbing after us like spiders, not running, swarming, filling the slope from edge to edge, limbs jerking at impossible angles, their black bodies warping as they moved. I screamed. Noah grabbed my arm and yanked me the last few feet onto the ridge. We stumbled onto a narrow deer path and tore along it, half sliding down the other side. The pounding behind us never slowed. Something grabbed my pack. I shrieked and spun, swinging my trekking pole. It sliced through nothing. The strap ripped clean off, and my pack vanished backward into the horde. We didn't stop. Downhill, through dead leaves, over a creek that soaked our shoes. My body stopped feeling like mine. I was just momentum and terror, lungs raw, legs on autopilot. Then, silence. So sudden it made me stumble. We stopped. Bent double, gasping, choking. The forest was still, empty. They're gone, Noah panted. They stopped. Why? I whispered. My voice sounded shredded. He didn't answer. We stood there shaking, listening, trying to believe it. Then the silence broke. A single crack of a twig directly behind us. We spun. They were standing at the tree line. Hundreds of them, perfectly still, lined up shoulder to shoulder. No breathing, no shifting. Just black silhouettes against the dimming woods. And then all at once they started walking forward. We ran. I don't remember most of it. Just flashes. Noah slipping on a rock and nearly going over the edge of a ravine. My hands bleeding from grabbing thorns. The figures flowing silently through the trees on either side, never closer, never falling behind, hurting us. Dusk settled fast. The woods went from dim to black in what felt like seconds. My headlamp barely cut the dark. Every time I swung it behind us, I saw them. Closer now, maybe 20 feet back, keeping perfect formation. They're pushing us somewhere, Noah gasped. I knew he was right. The trail was gone. My compass spun uselessly. We weren't heading downhill anymore. We were being funneled sideways through some kind of gorge, sheer rock walls rising on both sides. The path narrowed until it was barely wide enough for one person. The figures followed in single file, an endless black ribbon. We hit a dead end, a vertical rock face slick with moss 20 feet high. No, I croaked. Noah dropped his pack, laced his fingers, and crouched. Go, climb, now. I stepped into his hands, scrambled up, grabbing roots, slipping, skinning my knees. I hauled myself onto the ledge and turned to help him. Just as they hit him, it was silent. They didn't leap or lunge. They just flowed over him, a tidal wave of black limbs. He screamed. I screamed too, reaching down, but they pulled him backward into the mass and he was gone. Just gone. The ledge spun under me. I think I blacked out for a second. When I came to, I was running. I don't know how I stayed ahead of them. Maybe they let me. I stumbled through endless trees until my headlamp died, then ran blind, crashing into trunks, shredding my clothes. The pounding of their feet was everywhere. Then, suddenly, road. I burst out of the forest onto asphalt, collapsing to my knees, sobbing. Headlights blinded me. A pickup skidded to a stop inches from my face. A hunter climbed out, swearing. He drove me to the ranger station. When they went back for Noah, there was nothing. No sign of him. No footprints, no gear, no blood. They said we probably got lost, and he fell. That I was hysterical, exhausted, hallucinating. But I know what I saw.